This week we read about the flood of Noah. And the Torah talks about how the rains came down for 40 days, 40 nights, how the storage places in heaven were opened, and all of the waters of the deep came gurgling up. And the Torah describes that the amount of water was such that it covered the tallest mountains. Tallest mountain, for those who don't know this, are the Himalayas, which average 5 to 5.5 miles tall. The tallest, of course, is Everest, which is almost 6 miles tall. And it says that all of the highest mountains were covered by at least 17 feet of water, which would mean over 29,000 feet of water covered the earth during the time of the flood. The problem with that amount of water is that there are not sufficient water in the clouds or in the snow caps and in the aquifers to account for that amount of water. So the question is, how is this possible? The Torah testifies that this happened. And in fact, many of the contours of the continents and of the world were caused by the flood. Of course, the scientists will have you believe that it was from the Ice Age. But they discount the possibility of an incredible amount of water churning and moving for close to a year with such incredible force and power that it must have dug its way through the channels and through the valleys and the mountains of the world, including this great country. Some of the remnants of a massive movement of water are incredible. To say that this came from erosion due to the Ice Age, I think is a little silly. At any rate, where did this water come from? I wondered about this many times, and as a student of the Torah and as an amateur student of science, I wanted to know where this came from. One of the things you have to know is between Mars and Jupiter, there's an area called the asteroid belt. And there are really a lot of asteroids there. And there are also comets that visit the solar system from time to time. Did you know that most of the asteroids in the asteroid belt, at least much of them, and the comets are composed of water? Huge amounts of water. So they say that the Arubos Hashamayim, the storage places, the vents, so to speak, of the heavens were opened, that this could refer to huge asteroids filled with water in huge amounts at one time. Umayonis Tehim Rabba, and the fountains of the great depths. Now, if you look at the aquifer has less than 1% of all the waters in the world. Where is the waters of the great depths? Guess what? They discovered them a few years ago. There is an underground ocean primarily located under North America, that is, I don't know, 5 to 10 or 20 miles deep, and has more water than all of the oceans combined. And if that's the case, that's where the Mayonas Tahom Rabbah come from. There's an incredibly huge amount of water underneath the ground, 20, 30 miles below the surface, and that this amount of water is far greater than the amount of water in all of the oceans. And hence, when you combine the waters that are coming from the heavens, from the asteroid belt, and the waters that are coming from the depths, you will have much more water than all the waters that are found in the oceans. And the possibility, of course, that either the mountains were formed later, or that indeed there is 4 to 5 times the volume of water that is found in the oceans, and this would be sufficient to raise the water level to almost 6 miles above the surface. And then God pulled the plug and the waters receded. And you have to understand that if the waters were so large, so huge, where could they go? Obviously, there had to have been major fissures in the structure of the oceans and in the land, and that these fissures allowed for the water to then settle out. First, the water was pushed out by some intense heat, and when this intense volcanic eruption ceased, the waters then were able to go back into the holes, into the drains, just like a bathtub, to go back to where they were originally, where they stay today. But until recently, anybody that was religious had to deal with it on faith. Today, we know it's there. Mayonas Tahom Rabbah. And where are the Rubas Hashamayim? The Rubas Hashamayim, just look into the heavens. And if you will see the asteroid belt, you'll understand that the water came from those frozen asteroids filled with incredible amounts of water, causing there to be a major flood. Imagine if there was asteroids that were 10, 20 miles across. Not only would they bring water with them, but there would be massive flooding, massive movements of the waves because of the power of that impact. And that's probably part of the reason why everything was killed. In fact, one could then conjecture that the asteroid that caused the death of the dinosaurs actually took place during the time of the flood, and it wasn't just one asteroid, it was many, and that the net result of it was extreme flooding, and that snuffed out all of life as we knew it up till that time.